Hey there guys, this is Koopagen. We have made it to the final volume of the Wolf Queen series. In the last volume we had found that Kintira was in fact killed. We don't know exactly why or how. It just kind of states that she at some point met her demise and it was spread across the kingdom. They end up turning against the Wolf Queen to a degree, but at this point she's going to battle with Magnus, and she's not looking well as far as that they are fighting against an Argonian force in the swamps, and her people are ill-equipped to deal with that. Despite this though, through inspiration of her own words, she leads her army to victory in this. So at the start of the war she finds out that her son, who has been crowned emperor at this point, has already been captured after a battle with one of the uncles. He's being transported to Ghislaine, and then by the end of this fight with Magnus, which she has won, she discovers that her son has in fact been burned alive within his carriage while he was in transport to Ghislaine. That is the heaviest blow that Potema could have taken at this point. It basically guarantees that her line has now ended, and we'll just have to see what she does with that now that we know that the very worst possible ending for her has already occurred, as far as her son is now gone. This is going to be the Wolf Queen Book 8 by Waffen Yarth. From the pen of Anzalicus, 2nd century sage, 3rd era, year 127. Following the Battle of Ichadag, the Emperor Uriel Septim III was captured, and before he was able to be brought to his uncle's castle in the Hammerfell kingdom of Ghislaine, he met his death at the hands of an angry mob. This uncle, Sepphoris, was thereafter proclaimed emperor and rode to the imperial city. The troops formerly loyal to Emperor Uriel and his mother, the Wolf Queen Potema, pledged themselves to the new emperor. In return for their support, the nobility of Skyrim, High Rock, Hammerfell, and the Somerset Isle, Phalenwood, Blackmarsh, and Morrowind demanded and received a new level of autonomy and independence from the Empire. The War of the Red Diamond was at an end. Potema continued to fight a losing battle, her area of influence dwindling and dwindling until only her Kingdom of Solitude remained in her power. She summoned Daedra to fight for her, had her necromancers resurrect her fallen enemies as undead warriors, and mounted attack after attack on the forces of her brothers, the Emperor Sepphoris Septim I and King Magnus of Littlemoss. Her allies began leaving her as her madness grew, and her only companions were the zombies and skeletons she had amassed over the years. The Kingdom of Solitude became a land of death. Stories of the ancient Wolf Queen being waited on by rotting skeletal chambermaids and holding war plans with vampiric generals terrified her subjects. 3rd era, year 137. Magnus opened up the small window in his room. For the first time in weeks he heard the sounds of a city. Carts squeaking, horses clopping over the cobblestones, and somewhere a child laughing. He smiled as he returned to his bedside to wash his face and finish dressing. There was a distinctive knock on the door. "Come in, Pell," he said. Pelagius bounded into the room. It was obvious that he had been up for hours. Magnus marveled at his energy and wondered how much longer battles would last if they were run by 12-year-old boys. "Did you see outside yet?" Pelagius asked. "All the townspeople have come back. There are shops and a mages guild, and down by the harbor I saw 100 shops coming from all over the place. They don't have to be afraid anymore. We've taken care of all the zombies and ghosts that used to be their neighbors, and they know it's safe to come back." "Is Uncle Sepphoris going to turn into a zombie when he dies?" asked Pelagius. "I wouldn't put that past him," laughed Magnus. "Why do you ask?" "I heard some people saying that he was old and sick," said Pelagius. "He's not that old," said Magnus. "He's 60 years old. That's just 2 years older than I." "And how old is Aunt Potema?" asked Pelagius. 70, said Magnus, "and yes, that is old. Any more questions will have to wait. I have to go meet with the commander now, but we can talk at supper. You can make yourself busy and not get in any trouble." "Yes, sir," said Pelagius. He understood that his father had to continue to hold siege on Aunt Potema's castle. After they took it over and locked her up, they would move out of the inn and into the castle. Pelagius was not looking forward to that. The whole town had a funny, sweet, dead smell, but he could not get even as close as the castle moat without gagging from the stench. They could dump 1,000,000 flowers on the palace and it wouldn't make any difference at all. He walked through the city for hours, buying some food and then some ribbons for his sister and mother back in Littlemoss. He thought about who else he needed to buy gifts for and was stumped. All his cousins, the children of Uncle Sepphoris, Uncle Antiochus, and Aunt Potema, had died during the war. Some of them in battle and some of them during the famines because so many crops had been burned. Aunt Bianchi had died last year. There was only he, his mother, his sister, his father, and his uncle the emperor left, and Aunt Potema, but she didn't really count. When he came upon the Mages Guild earlier that morning, he had decided not to go in. Those places always spooked him with their strange smoke and crystals and old books. This time it occurred to Pelagius that he might buy a gift for Uncle Sepphoris, a souvenir of Solitude's Mages Guild. An old woman was having trouble with the front door, so Pelagius opened it for her. "Thank you," she said. She was easily the oldest thing he had ever seen. Her face looked like an old, rotted apple framed with a wild whirl of bright white hair. He instinctively moved away from her gnarled talon when she started to pat him on the head, but there was a gem around her neck that immediately fascinated him. It was a single bright yellow jewel, but it almost looked there was something trapped within. When the light hit it from the candles, it brought out the form of a four-legged beast pacing. So we already know that the old lady is Potema. She's wearing the jewel that has the wolf demon inside of it. Whether that's really held any significance so far, I just don't know, other than it's helped her in like one case. Maybe right here it's going to help. Who knows? "It's a soul gem," she said, "infused with the spirit of a great demon werewolf. It was enchanted long, long ago with the power to charm people, but I've been thinking about giving it another spell. Perhaps something from the School of Alteration, like Lock or Shield." She paused and looked at the boy carefully with yellowed, rheumy eyes. "You look familiar to me, boy. What's your name?" "Pelagius," he said. He normally would have said Prince Pelagius, but he was told not to draw attention to himself while in town. "Then I wouldn't have said your name knowing where you got your name," and I'm sure he knew, as it was probably told to him by his parents. "I used to know someone named Pelagius," the old woman said, and slowly smiled. "Are you here alone, Pelagius?" "My father is with the army storming the castle, but he'll be back when the walls have been breached." Okay, so we already have this dude kind of betrays that very notion not to draw attention to himself by saying that his father is storming the castle. Not a wise move. Really not wise. Which I dare say won't take too much longer, sighed the old woman. "Nothing, no matter how well built, tends to last. Are you buying something in the Mages Guild?" "I wanted to buy a gift for my uncle," said Pelagius, "but I don't know if I have enough gold." The old woman left the boy to look over the wares while she went to the guild enchanter. He was a young Nord, ambitious and new to the Kingdom of Solitude. It took a little persuasion and a lot of gold to convince him to remove the charm spell from the soul gem and imbue it with a powerful curse, a slow poison that would drain wisdom from its wearer year by year until he or she lost all reason. She also purchased a cheap ring of fire resistance. "For your kindness to an old woman, I've brought you these," she said, giving the boy the necklace and the ring. "You can give the ring to your uncle and tell him it has been enchanted with a levitation spell, so if ever he needs to leap from high places, it will protect him. The soul gem is for you." "Thank you," said the boy, "but this is too kind of you." "Kindness has nothing to do with it," she answered, quite honestly. "You see, I was in the Hall of Records at the Imperial Palace once or twice, and I read about you in the foretellings of the Elder Scrolls. You will be emperor one day, my boy. The Emperor Pelagius Septim III, and with this soul gem to guide you, posterity will always remember you and your deeds." With those words, the old woman disappeared down an alley behind the Mages Guild. Pelagius looked after her, but he did not think to search behind a heap of stones. If he had, he would have found a tunnel under the city into the very heart of Castle Solitude, and if he had found his way there, he would have found, past the shambling undead and the moldering remains of a once grand palace, the bedroom of the queen. In that bedroom he would have find the wolf queen of Solitude in repose, listening to the sounds of her castle collapsing, and he would see a toothless grin growing on her face as she breathed her last. From the pen of Anzalicus, 2nd century sage, 3rd era, year 137. Potema Septim died after a month-long siege on her castle. While she lived, she had been Wolf Queen of Solitude, daughter of the Emperor Pelagius II, wife of King Mantiarco, aunt of the Empress Kentira II, mother of Emperor Uriel III, and sister of the Emperors Antiochus and Sepphoris. At her death, Magnus appointed his son Pelagius as the titular head of Solitude, under guidance from the Royal Council. So up to this point, they've stormed the castle, they've gotten her finally, she was breathing her last on her little deathbed there, but she managed to give this kid a cursed necklace, something I would know that royal families would be teaching their kids against. Do not accept random gifts from strangers, especially in an area where you do not know who's your friend and who's not, especially from an old crone of all things in a city riddled with undead. You just got there. Why they would leave this kid unattended is beyond me. Why you would trust anything and think that you just have this person pinned inside of a castle. I would always assume that they have a way out and that should not be trusted. I would never give leniency to this, especially in a medieval setting when you know about cursed objects. If I was receiving some gift from my own child and their claim has got some magic, I would be questioning all this. Because if I know I didn't give them the gold to get this, how did they get it? Why are you not asking these questions? Which, it's a side story in a game, so maybe there's a lot to be left, out of that, but it is what it is, I guess. Third Era, year 140. The Emperor Sepphoris Septim died after falling from his horse. His brother was proclaimed the Emperor Magnus Septim. So dude fell off a horse. Maybe he thought he was going to do well. I don't know. The levitation ring being alive wouldn't really have changed anything there. I don't know if that would have helped him from falling off his horse. He just kind of died in an unceremonious manner, but at least it wasn't some horrible death by some curse, Third Era, year 141. Pelagius, king of Solitude, is recorded as occasionally eccentric in the imperial annals. He marries Catarish, Duchess of Vardenfell. Third Era, year 145. The Emperor Magnus Septim dies. His son, who will be known as Pelagius the Mad, is coronated. So I know that there's a story on Pelagius the Mad. Maybe we can find that book and touch on it too. But that seems to be the end of the volume, guys. We have reached the end. It seems like Potema met her end finally. After exhausting all of her allies, everyone turned to the side of the emperors. And now we see that she created a situation that led to Pelagius becoming Pelagius the Mad. She gave him a stone that she had held for years as a charm to make people do her bidding, and then turned it into a cursed object that led to his craziness. So we know what leads up to that point. But guys, I want to thank you all if you held out throughout all of these series. If you want to see more of these type of lore readings, let me know. I'm going to put all of these in, and then make sure that if you guys like more of this, I'm going to do more. I'll try to find other things. I may do other games though, so let me know what you like to see, and thank you guys for being here through it all. This was the Wolf Queen series, and I appreciate every one of you guys. Have a good one.